6:38 in January is Cervical Cancer Awareness Month, one of the most common cancers in women younger than 50.
And like so many other potentially deadly diseases, early detection is crucial when it comes to giving women their best shot at beating it.
And our Cara Duffy sat down with a South Florida woman who's now sharing her battle with cervical cancer in hopes of saving lives.
Marine biologist Tanya Kamerman says she feels happiest and most alive in the water. But every dive since January 2018 has come with a deeper appreciation for life.
They didn't think I was going to make it at the worst of it in 2020. They said probably a month. And so to be here now is pretty great.
Kamerman, who was 36 at the time, was diagnosed with cervical cancer in January 2018. She underwent several rounds of chemotherapy and radiation, only to learn that the cancer had spread to her lymph nodes and lung.
They ended up putting in a chest tube, so they were draining fluid off of my lung every day to every other day, sometimes 1 liter a day.
Unable to care for herself, she moved back in with her parents in Alabama. Her last chance at survival was to try immunotherapy treatments.
Every day little things were better. Like I could get to the bathroom on my own. My oxygen wasn't dropping as low as it normally did. I was sleeping a little, my pain was a little less, things like that.
Each small improvement bringing her one step closer to regaining her independence, one that, of course, included diving.
My doctors are worried about damage on my lung and if diving was really a good idea. And I didn't really like that answer, so I was like, well, I'm diving, so you're gonna have to work with me on this.
Dr. Madi Taha helped make it happen. He is a Florida cancer specialist physician and Kamerman's medical oncologist at Delray Medical Center.
Early detection is key. Females should have a pap smear and an HPV test, in my opinion, for screening. Screening starts at the age of 21 when it comes to pap smears.
For Kamerman, she says she knew something was wrong when she started bleeding heavily, but admits there were other signs about 6 months leading up to that, all of which she simply brushed off.
That's the thing about these cancer types. They often go asymptomatic. And so if you do notice any irregularities or abnormal palpation, when you feel something that just doesn't feel right or sit right, you should seek medical attention right away.
As Kamerman continues her fight against this disease, she says her message to others is simple. Listen to your body and, most importantly, appreciate the now.
I say this all the time, you're always like, when I get this job or when I go on this trip or when I have a husband or whatever, but there's always something good now. And I think that's something I've really tried to do because, tomorrow, none of us know if we have tomorrow. So you need to be happy where you're at now, no matter what that looks like.
It's such an important message there. Again, Dr. Taha says that if caught early, this cancer is very treatable. Right now, it is recommended that women get a pap test and HPV screening every 3 years, but he says if you can, do it every year. Also, he says most women stop getting screened once they get in their 50s because usually they associate cervical cancer as a disease that only impacts younger people, but that's not true. So if you can continue screening after the age of 50, it is better to err on the side of caution, he says. And finally, he highly recommends getting the HPV vaccine. Now, HPV is the virus that can potentially lead to cervical cancer and cause it. They recently expanded the age range, now making that particular vaccine available for males and female ages 9 to 45.
Palm Beach County leaders are now condemning what they call an act of hate and anti-Semitic messages. They've been found over the weekend on multiple cars and driveways. They say it's happening all too often.
It's one of several anti-Semitic incidents that we've seen across our area lately.
In fact, the state attorney's office and the sheriff's office, working with local lawmakers, they had a roundtable discussion earlier today to discuss how to put a stop to it.
And as CBS 12's Lily Ortiz reports, a new bill was recently filed that will penalize those who project or spread those messages of hate.
Palm Beach County leaders say they're just not going to sit and allow this to happen. Right now, they're looking for solutions to hold these people accountable. From anti-Semitic flyers being tossed across neighborhoods to this display projected onto the AT&T building in downtown West Palm Beach, Palm Beach County leaders say they are standing up to hate.
These people are not coming from Palm Beach County. They're coming from outside of Palm Beach County to bring their hate.
In a bipartisan collaboration, leaders met today to talk about ways to strengthen state laws and enact new ordinances on a local level to fight the anti-Semitism in our area. Today, they shared a new bill sponsored by Delray Beach State Representative Mike Caruso, calling it a step in the right direction.
If you project an image that is targeted at a group for purposes of hate, then that would raise it up to a hate crime. So that could take it from a misdemeanor to a third-degree felony. They are cowards. They deserve to be treated as such.
They also want to tighten up the anti-littering laws, potentially making those up to a third-degree felony.
Under the current anti-littering laws, local governments can impose a fine of up to $150 per incident, perhaps to try to raise the cost, to hit them in the pocketbook and, if possible, hit them with a potential crime.
Last Saturday, Atlantis police arrested Nicholas Bischheim on a charge of obstructing a law enforcement officer without violence after he was caught littering lawns with anti-Semitic flyers. Similar propaganda was found on Palm Beach County Sheriff's vehicles. They say no charges were filed due to freedom of speech.
Hate speech has a certain measure of protection under the First Amendment. It crosses the line, though, when it's assault, when it's threat of physical violence.
They say Sheriff Rick Bradshaw also talked about a strong
are heartened by the expressions of solidarity, support, legislation being proposed.
The Anti-Defamation League of Florida is urging people in our area to report these incidents to law enforcement, saying they cannot create policies unless they know the extent and severity of the problem.
While these people have their voice and they're increasingly willing to use it, all of us in society, all of us have our voices as well, and we can all speak up against bigotry.
Flying over to a juvenile treatment facility in Tequesta last Friday night injured several of the staff members there. 8 of those kids briefly escaped.
The Martin County Sheriff's Office rounded up the runaways quickly, but this isn't their first time responding to this facility. As CBS 12 Treasure Coast reporter Dylan Huberman tells us, they're now seeking compensation for their extensive efforts. He joins us live tonight. Dylan?
Yeah, the Sheriff's Office has been called to the Sandy Pines Juvenile Treatment Facility more than 200 times over the last 18 months, and they're getting tired of it. And to add to that, the Martin County Sheriff's Office PIO Christine Weiss just texted me that the facility is also responding to reports that yet another juvenile has escaped the facility, a 15-year-old who jumped over the fence.
Law enforcement says the high number of calls to the Sandy Pines Juvenile Treatment Facility in Tequesta is frequently diverting vital resources and manpower.
We've become increasingly frustrated with multiple calls for service. In the last year and a half, we've been to that Sandy Pines over 240 times.
The incident Friday night left workers at the facility terrified, calling 911.
There's a riot in 2 units and we do not have enough staff. They're hurting the staff. I got hit in the head. It's really bad, so we really need help.
But with Sandy Pines requiring constant attention, including 27 deputies Friday, Chief Deputy John Budenseek says there's a debt to be paid.
I know they pay taxes, but at some point, after we've sat down and had meeting after meeting and asked them, hey, please rectify this situation, and it's not been done, at some point, I think they owe it to the taxpayers to foot the bill for our resources.
Going forward, Budenseek hopes the treatment facility can better position themselves to minimize emergency situations, but says deputies will continue to respond to calls.
We're going regardless, but we would like some support on the backside. We would like them to up their staffing. We'd like them to up their security measures. It's not a jail, but if they could do something to keep people or keep these children in or within their facility or within their compound, that would help us tremendously.
We'll keep you updated as we learn more about that escapee, but also earlier this morning, Chief Deputy Budenseek says that Sandy Pines reached out to the Sheriff's Office to set up a meeting tomorrow for the two sides to work out their differences. When I called Sandy Pines earlier today, they still have not responded to my calls.